thought he was a lonely orphan, but he turns out to be the strongest archdemon and marries a beautiful white elf. The story starts with a knight who corners a woman in the woods and attacks her with a knife. The girl screams for help before trying to slap him away, but to her absolute shock and horror, the moment her hand touches his face, the entire skin on his head comes off, revealing a grueling layer of red flesh underneath. The knight reveals that he is a sorcerer who wants to cut up and use her pretty face to fulfill one of his spells. Just as he's about to stab her, someone approaches him from behind and grabs him by the head. The sorcerer asks in shock who it is, only for the brown-haired man named Zakin to ask the same question back at him. Zakin tells him that he was trying to get some sleep, but all the shouting in his territory ruined his slumber. The sorcerer realizes Zakin is a fellow sorcerer, and he messed up by trespassing in his territory. So he tries to sweet-talk Zakin by saying that if he lets him go, he will share the powerful sorcery secrets he discovered from his research. Zakin coldly replies that he does not need to learn any magic that requires hurting people and crushes his head in his hands, squirting blood all over the girl, who simply gets knocked unconscious because of the shock. Zakin immediately realizes that he might have gone too far, and has definitely given her some PTSD. He uses magic to clean up the crime scene so that everything reverts to normal. The blood on the girl's face gets off, while the knight gets his face back and lies on the ground dead. After this, he notices that the woman is wearing a cross and realizes that she is from the church, which is bad news because the worshippers are the sworn enemies of sorcerers, and despite saving her, he might be blamed for the attack. Still, Zakin decides it doesn't matter to him and decides to finish the job by translocating her to another village while hoping that the girl will think it was all a dream when she wakes up. He tries to finish his casting circle, but something interferes with his magic, causing it to fail. He turns around immediately to find another very powerful sorcerer named Barb appear in front of him. Barb looks at the strange scene and asks him what happened. Zakin explains that he was just teaching a lesson to a creep who wandered into his territory. Barb disagrees with him about calling the other sorcerer a creep because the sole purpose of sorcerers is to pursue power and other people are just fuel to be used to become stronger. Zakin stays silent at this statement when Barb senses that the woman on the ground has a lot of mana coming out of her and that they should use it in their magic. But Zakin refuses by saying that he is not interested in sacrificial magic and creates a magic portal again to translocate the girl to a nearby village. He tries to return to his chambers to follow through on his much-needed nap, but Barb insists he has come to Zakin for a good reason. He reveals that one of the 13 archdemons has died, which is enough to get Zakin's attention. The archdemons are the pinnacle of sorcery, and those who earn the title have boosted mana and the power to command lower-ranked sorcerers. Barb explains that the strongest archdemon named Marco, who lived a whole 1,000 years, died, and there is going to be a huge auction for his possessions in his territory. This convinces Zakin to go there, but he's pissed to have Barb come along with him because he knows that Barb's only invited him so he can be a leech and use his money to buy things. They reach the archdemon's territory, which is a bustling city named Kyanoids. It is already overflowing with people who've come for the auction, selling and buying goods, while a bunch of slaves sit in a dark alleyway awaiting their future masters. Zakin notices the tight security, and Barb explains that lately, some sorcerers have been abducting a lot of girls with huge amounts of mana to use in his sorcery, which has caused a panic. Zakin wonders why anybody would want to do something so risky and pick a fight against the church, suspecting that they must be planning to summon something big like a demon. The two enter the auction hall and take their seats as the moderator tries to auction off the items to the riled-up audience. Barb points out they are in the midst of a celebrity crowd, which includes some of the most powerful sorcerers who are being considered as candidates for the late Marco archdemon's seat. Zakin asks how the successors are decided, to which Barb replies that the remaining 12 archdemons will debate and decide who the worthiest sorcerer is to receive the throne. Eventually, the moderator hypes up the crowd for the final item in the auction, which is revealed to be a purebred elf, a rare race of magical beings who are closer to gods and nature beings than humans. The moment Zakin lays eyes on her, he is overwhelmed by her beauty and his heart starts racing. The moderator starts the bid at $10,000, and Zakin immediately calls $1 million. which surprises every single person including Barb, who tells him that it is too much money, even for an elf, and asks what crazy sorcery he's planning to use her for. Zakin merely gives a smile so unsettling that it even creeps Barb out. He immediately jumps down to look closely at the elf and notices a chain around her neck. The moderator tells him it must be there to stop her from escaping, but nobody has been successful at breaking the collar. Later that night, deep inside the forest where Zakin's castle is, he decides to try and have a conversation, but his years of being an incel have made it impossible for him to learn how to talk to women. Before he could say anything, thankfully, the elf speaks up and requests him to let her ask a question. He is immediately struck by the sweetness of her voice, and he tries to play it cool, but instead sounds annoyed when he tells her to ask away. She introduces herself as Nefi, and with sad eyes, asks him how she is going to die. Zakin is shocked over her grave misunderstanding, and he immediately tells her that he is not going to kill her, which makes her believe that she will have a fate worse than death after seeing the torture devices in the womb. Zakin gets embarrassed because he never got rid of the previous owner's things because he was too lazy to. He gives the excuse that they are just for decoration, and insists that even though he is a sorcerer, he has no interest in torturing or killing her for any reason whatsoever. He asks whether she has a family, but she claims that she is an orphan and also a cursed child, but does not explain further. She then asks that if not for sacrificing or torturing, why did he buy her? And because he can't openly simp for her yet, he tells her that she doesn't need to know that. He walks up to her and tells her that they should look around for a room where she could stay. She interprets this as him saying she will pick where she dies, making him realize that this girl was probably enslaved at a very young age and was told all her life that she would be sold to a sorcerer who would sacrifice her, making it the only thing she believes. This reminds him of his own difficult childhood when he was an orphan and had to steal and fight for food, which makes him more sympathetic towards her. He tells her that he wants her alive because he needs her, which surprises her because no one has ever told her that they need her. He then starts taking her upstairs and asks her if she is scared of heights. She tells him that SH will let him hang her any way he wants, but the baffled Zakin yells at her to shut up about torture. She apologizes for her old habit and suddenly slips, but he catches her arm and drags her upstairs. Finally, he opens a room at the top of the tower and claims that she could have it, only to be horrified as he sees a guillotine machine and a pile of skulls inside. She gets confused by his mixed signals and again offers her head, but he quickly creates a small energy blast and completely destroys everything inside the room, leaving it empty. They both go inside and Nefi for once seems interested as she goes into the balcony to look at the moon. Zakin is relieved to see emotion on her face, but is disappointed that he can't use sorcery to get the moon for her. Suddenly, Nefi asks whether she could stay in this room and Zakin happily agrees, starting their friendship. Nefi wasn't able to sleep in her room because it was so inhospitable, so she slept by Zakin's throne while he was unable to sleep due to nervousness, as he has never been this close to a girl before. They both belong to the floor gang and start chowing down while Zakin thinks about why he is such a big failure. Nefi notices that he is eating the same thing as she is, which confuses her, and she asks about it. This makes him realize that the food that he is eating is way too plain and only slaves and pigs eat like this. He realizes that he will always be a disappointment and starts eating the piece of jerky again when he suddenly remembers that this is the only food he has at an anime waifu who would cook him food. He immediately dons his cape and tells Nefi that they are going into the town to get some groceries, to rush him at once. A fat-ass fatty tries to attack him with his axe, but Zakin styles on him by stopping his blow with 2 fingers before hoping to impress her, and says that she shouldn't be worried about these bullies as everyone knows they are lame. To his utter surprise, when she went to meet her guy best friends, Zakin gets embarrassed and tells the furry to immediately put some clothes on her, otherwise he will burn his shop to the ground. The furry immediately goes back in and soon comes out with Nefi dressed in a beautiful maid's outfit. The furry explains that the dress is made up of high-quality silk. Together at the table, as food is brought up to them, but he notices that Nefi seems very uncomfortable. She reveals that all her life she has never eaten like this, while Zakin thinks how alike they are in terms of their childhood. He reassures her, and she tastes the small tomato, which blows her mind away. And to thank Zaken, she also feeds him with her own spoon, while Zaken feeds her as they start acting like clingy, love-struck teens. The other customers laugh at them, which makes them insecure, and they quickly leave into the night and head back to the castle. The next morning, Zaken wakes up to find Nefi standing in front of him with a smile, asking whether he would like to have some breakfast. Zaken gets up surprised but happy, asking if Nefi really made food for him, and she tells him that she did, and it's in the dining hall. He starts walking ahead, and after collecting his courage, he says good morning to her and heads straight for the dining hall. He is stunned the moment he sees the dining hall, as it looks straight out of a fairy tale, as it used to resemble a graveyard, but Nefi renovated and cleaned it completely. He walks towards the chair only to see a piece of freshly baked bread on the table, which surprises him as that she made it fresh for him. He asks whether she has eaten already, but she shakes her head, so Zaken tells her to join him on the table, but she replies that she only made food for him, as she forgot to make anything for herself. Zaken tells her to share half of his food, but notices that there is only one chair, so he asks her to sit on his lap. They both get embarrassed, but Nefi finally sits on his lap as he feeds her from his own hands, while she tells her that it is sorcery and magic spells that he is learning and points towards some magical figures on a paper. He asks whether elven sorcery is different, but Nefi claims with a sad face that she can't use sorcery. Zaken finds it weird as she has a lot of mana compared to any normal person, and tells her that they can draw an entirely different magic circle inside another magic circle, but most of the times either the spell will never work or the spell will malfunction, causing a lot of damage. Only a person who has completely mastered the control of their mana can create something like this, and this will also make them be able to hijack anyone's magic circle, essentially making them the strongest sorcerer on Earth. He tells him that lots of people have tried, but all of them have failed, as it is an incredibly difficult task. He then sits down on his chair, while Nefi asks him what he is going to do with his incredible powers. Zaken thinks about it, but replies that he is just going to try and survive. He continues. The intruders turned out to be knights from the church, while the Lady Paladin uses her sacred sword to slice through Zaken's defensive barrier. Zaken immediately appears in front of the gate with a bang and starts trash-talking the church, which pisses knights off that the paladin looks similar to someone he has seen before, while he notices that she possesses one of the 12 sacred swords that are incredibly strong and a symbol of the church's power. He suddenly realizes that the paladin is the same girl who he saved the other day by that weird faceless molester knight, and thinks about how he would have killed her if he knew she was a paladin. Zaken tells them to piss off and uses a basic magic spell at the paladin, but one of the knights immediately jumps forward with his shield and blocks the attack. Zaken knows that he didn't use his full power, but he was still impressed by the knight. The black-haired shield guy shouts at him for attacking them, but Zaken insults him to his face, angering him at why is he trying to torture them instead of killing them. Zaken replies that if he kills them, the church will send someone else, but if he hurts them, they will tell the story to everyone and people will start fearing his powers. The paladin realizes that Zaken is bluffing as he doesn't want to kill anyone, so she takes her sword out and swears to kill him. Zaken creates a magic circle, but she rushes forward and slashes the circle in half, surprising Zaken with her strength. She keeps running forward while attacking, but Zaken calmly dodges all her attacks and tells her that he doesn't fight women, and also because she reminds him of Nefi. She calls him evil just because he uses sorcery and vows to destroy all the sorcerers, while Zaken calls her hypocrisy out and claims that she is using her powers to kill sorcerers without caring for whether they are innocent or not, which makes Paladin is able to get it free and thrusts the sword at Zaken, but he manages to stop it with his magic and grabs it in his hands. The paladin, however, is very strong and simply flings Zaken in the air and towards a tree, hurting his head. But Zaken dodges the strike and grabs her blade. To his surprise, she whispers to him that he needs to pretend that he got killed by her, otherwise the church will never let him live in peace and send another stronger paladin to kill him. Zaken asks why he should believe a paladin, and she replies that he didn't kill her men and also saved her life before. Zaken realizes that if anyone finds out about this, she will die a horrific death. Spear at her. Zaken rushes forward and pushes her out of the way just in time. While the spear stabs him in the hand, he takes the spear out when he suddenly feels a very strong presence. The trees around the start moving as Nefi stands up with anger burning in her eyes and tells them that they will pay for hurting Zaken. Suddenly roots start coming out of the ground and catches the knight before lifting him up in the air. Zaken tries to stop Nefi, and when she finally snaps out of it, she is horrified to see that she almost killed all the knights and the paladin as they look at her with fear in their eyes as they finally saw what Nefi was capable of. Later that night, Nefi bandages Zaken's hands as he thinks about how the paladin apologized for getting Nefi involved and use magic. She responds that it wasn't magic, but something called mysticism. Zaken remembers reading about it, but thought it was just a myth because it defies all laws of magic. Nefi continues that she is the only elf who could use this because she was cursed when she was born. She is the only elf who had white hair and was able to talk to animals and trees alike, and because of that people called her a freak and hated her. One day their village got attacked, and all the villagers told her to defend the village with her freak powers, but she decided to surrender while the entire village was slaughtered. She tells Zaken that she felt happy when the villagers who tormented her the entire life were getting killed, and then cries about how bad of a person she is to think like this. Zaken, however, tells her that he thinks she did very well, as if it was him, he would have killed all the villagers and the attackers himself. She was expecting him to kick her out of the car, that she will always stay with him as he can't live without her food anymore. Nefi starts crying out of relief while Zaken hugs her. After a short while, Zaken is finally able to quiet her down, and they both sit opposite to each other. Nefi feels pretty embarrassed for crying like that in front of her master, but Zaken reassures her that he liked how talkative she was today, whereas usually she doesn't speak much. Nefi's attention gets drawn to his hands, and she asks whether they are really badly damaged. Zaken finally remembers about his hands, but claims that they don't seem to hurt anymore. He takes out the bandages, and to his surprise, the wounds have disappeared completely. He asks Nefi whether this was her doing, but she refuses, saying that she didn't do anything. Zaken realizes that Nefi has a lot of dormant powers, and she must have healed him unknowingly when he was holding her head in his arms. He thanks Nefi for healing him, which seems to stun her for a bit. Zaken asks whether everything is okay, and she replies that he has never thanked her before. That's why she was caught off guard. Zaken feels terrible as he realizes how mean he must have looked to never say a word of thanks when she was cooking and taking care of him every single day. Later that night, Zaken rests on his throne thinking about the long day that he just had, when he spots Nefi standing behind a pillar. She looks at him with an embarrassed face and asks whether he would like to sleep with him. This catches Zaken off guard, who doesn't understand why would a beautiful woman like her ask him to sleep with her. He confirms with her whether she knows what she is saying. Nefi innocently replies that there is only one bed in the entire castle, and that Zaken has given to her so that she can sleep comfortably, while he stays all night on his uncomfortable throne, and she thought it might be more comfortable for him to sleep in the bed with her. Zaken thinks about how pure Nefi is, and then tells her that he stays up on the throne all night to make sure the barriers are maintained and no enemies try to sneak in the castle, hoping to catch him off guard. She quickly understands the situation and sits down on the floor, asking him to lay his head on her lap so at least he can be a bit more comfortable than he is on the chair. Zaken can't believe that he is being offered a lap pillow, and knows that only an idiot will refuse a lap pillow, so he gladly accepts. He asks why is she so nice to him, and she replies that even after knowing that she is cursed, he still told her that he wanted her by his side, and also accepted his mystic powers, which she can't thank him enough for. Zaken tells her that she never needs to thank him for anything before putting his hands on her cheek, as he asks whether she wants to learn how to use magic properly. He claims that from what he saw today, he knows that she doesn't have a lot of control over her sorcery, but the amount of mana she released was incredible, especially considering that a huge chunk of it was subdued because of her color. He can't promise that learning basic sorcery would help her gain control over her mystic powers, but at least she will be able to defend herself better. She asks whether she would be able to protect him from trouble as well, and Zaken calmly replies that she already protected him from those knights from the church today. She thanks him for accepting her as his apprentice. She immediately hugs him, while this moves Zaken so much that tears form in the eyes of one of the strongest demons in this world, as he thinks how nice it is to have someone in your life. The next morning, while he was having his tea, Barb walks in the room and asks whether he is fine as he heard the news that Zaken was attacked by the church. Zaken claims that he was attacked, but the knights were very weak. Barb tells him that he also heard that one of them had a sacred sword, and Zaken tells him that the paladin girl did have the sword and was pretty strong as she destroyed a couple of barriers around the castle. While they were talking, Nephi brings him some tea, and he suddenly remembers her from the auction spilling his tea. Zaken quickly uses his magic to catch the spill, while Barb asks whether it's the same elf that he bought for so much money. Zaken claims that it is when Barb asks why hasn't he sacrificed her yet. Zaken replies that he is not a barbarian, and instead he has taken her as an apprentice. Barb sits down again as he realizes that with an elf by his side, Zaken can probably use every single kind of magic known to man. Zaken feels annoyed that he is talking about Nephi as an object and claims that it was Nephi who scared the knights away by her magic. Barb remembers the mess he saw outside and asks Zaken whether he is after the archdemon's seat. Zaken thinks about how he only needs the key to free Nephi, but lies about it and replies that he does want the seat. He knows himself that he is unlikely to be chosen because he started learning about magic just 10 years ago, whereas other sorcerers have been studying about magic and its properties for hundreds of years and have amassed a great knowledge which he can't even come close to. Barb finally gets up and leaves while Nephi asks whether he is Zaken's friend. Zaken immediately declines by saying that he doesn't have any friends, but Nephi claims that he seemed to be having fun talking to him. Later that day, he takes Nephi out to fix the magic barriers that were destroyed by the paladin in the hopes that she can learn something from it. After that day, Nephi started learning about sorcery while doing all the household chores as well. She learned all about the basic magic circles and often cooked food so nice that Zaken wanted to kiss her hands. Soon Nephi learned all the basics of sorcery, and Zaken told her that she knows enough magic to do some basic spells. Soon a month passes by since he started living with her when a magic bird tries to enter Zaken's barrier, but he stops it using his magic circle. The two-headed bird calmly delivers a small envelope to him and flies away immediately. Zaken opens the letter only to find that he got summoned by the 12 archdemons to present himself in the city of the sorcerers. The next morning, he goes down to the city and enters an underground lair. He enters a huge door only to find it completely jam-packed with all kinds of sorcerers. The moment he presents himself, one of the archdemons speaks up and Zaken immediately feels the immense pressure and the intensity of their magic power as they overwhelm him completely. They start talking about how young he is. When Zaken pulls himself back together and with a fake bravado asks the archdemons whether they brought him here just to waste his time or do they have something to say to him. One of the archdemons commends his bravery for speaking to them like this, and cuts to the chase, telling him that he has been selected for the position of the 13th archdemon. Immediately after that, the archdemon produces a red magical crest in the air with such an immense amount of mana concentrated inside of it that Zaken starts feeling sick. The archdemons claim that this crest belonged to the previous 13th archdemon, and if Zaken accepts, it will be passed on to him alongside its power and prestige. Zaken looks at the archdemons and asks why they have chosen him, as there are sorcerers who are much older, more knowledgeable, and even powerful than him. The archdemon agrees that Zaken's powers are still very weak, but the fact is that he has some latent abilities which are so powerful that none of the sorcerers here, including the archdemons, can kill him. He continues that Zaken was only 8 when he killed a very well-known sorcerer who was not weak by any means. Even though Zaken was a child with no magical power, he was able to understand the flow of mana and the technique behind the magic just by observing it once, and produced an even more powerful spell to kill the sorcerer to earn his freedom. The archdemon tells him that his sorcery is so unique and powerful that he can overpower any sorcerer in the world and no one could do anything about it. Zaken looks at them and asks if he is so strong, then he could just kill all of them and take all their belongings. This makes the archdemons laugh, as one of the old archdemon tells Zaken to be mindful of where he is standing. She claims that Zaken is strong indeed, but if he tries to cross them, they will take every single thing Zaken holds dear. He immediately thinks about Nephi and how he couldn't put her life in any danger. He starts thinking about his options as he knew from the day that he became a sorcerer that a normal life is something he cannot have. But becoming an archdemon will mean that he will be diving into a darker path altogether. He knows that Nephi doesn't deserve to walk this path, as she will just suffer because of this darkness. The archdemon pulls him out of his thoughts and asks him for an answer. Zaken looks at him and puts a condition for accepting the title. The archdemon asks what more could he want than the title of one of the archdemons, and Zaken replies that he wants all the possessions of the previous archdemon. The sorcerer agrees to the arrangement and produces the crest before Zaken absorbs it on his hand, officially becoming the 13th archdemon of the world. That night he returns back to his castle, where Nephi was happily cooking him a lamb stew which he loves. Nephi happily greets him but notices that something seems off about him. He claims that he went to meet the other archdemons and now has the property of the previous archdemon who owned Nephi. He produces a key and immediately unlocks the slave collar on Nephi's neck, which falls to the ground immediately. Before she could even process what was happening, he tells her that he is now the 13th archdemon and has no further use of her before kicking her out of the castle. Nephi sits down on an empty alleyway in the middle of the night, unable to process what just happened to her. She gets up to go back to the castle, but finds the broken slave collar, remembering that her master, who told her that he would never leave her alone and wants her to stay with him forever, just kicked her out like a stray dog. Nephi wanders around, unable to think of a life without her master, when suddenly a girl ends up calling her over and asks whether she is okay. Nephi looks up slowly only to realize that the girl is none other than the Lady Knight who attacked them a month ago. Nephi was in such a terrible state that she believes that the paladin is here to take her life. But instead of running away, she accepts her death with open arms and tells the knight to kill her as she has no intentions of living without her master. The paladin starts backing off, telling Nephi that she has no such intentions, but Nephi walks up to her, asking whether it's not the duty of angelic knights to kill the sorcerers, and claims that she is an apprentice to a sorcerer, which means she should be killed as well. A bunch of people roaming around on the streets end up overhearing this conversation and walk in to check what's happening. Because Nephi came to the market often to get groceries, most of the townspeople end up recognizing her and think that the paladin is harassing her because Nephi works for a sorcerer. The paladin tells Nephi to shut her mouth because she is making her sound like a serial killer when she is not. But before she could say anything more, the winged woman who helped Nephi get a dress ends up arriving on the scene and tells the paladin to back off. They start trash talking and calling names to the paladin, which turns so bad that she ends up breaking down on the floor and starts bawling her eyes out. Thankfully, Nephi steps in and tells everyone that the paladin hasn't really done anything to her, which silences the crowd as the bird woman asks Nephi why does she look so terrible then? The paladin starts crying and shouts at the crowd that she hasn't done anything. The bird woman ends up taking her to a local tavern where the paladin regains her composure and introduces herself as Chastel. The bird woman calls herself Manuela and asks whether she seriously didn't do anything to Nephi, because she seems to recognize her. Nephi stops Manuela and tells her that even though they were fighting, Chastel never tried to hurt her and it was one of her subordinates that attacked. Chastel thinks about how the guy who Nephi attacked with her mystic magic got so much PTSD that he can't even look at a tiny plant now as he fears they will eat him. The tavern cook gets Nephi some food, but she claims that she doesn't have any money for it. Manuela tells her to eat up as she will take care of it, but tells Chastel that she will have to take care of her own food. Nephi tries the food, and it makes her remember the lamb stew that he cooked for Zaken with so much love, and tears form in her eyes immediately. She starts crying completely while Chastel asks whether she did something with a worried look. Nephi tells her that she got kicked out by Zaken and starts bawling her eyes out as both Chastel and Manuela run over to comfort her. And after finishing her food, Nephi tells them about what happened. Chastel tells her that she thought he was a half-decent person, but now it seems like he was just using Nephi for his own benefit. Nephi, however, defends Zaken and claims that he is not that kind of a person. Manuela asks what happened before he kicked her out, and Nephi tells them that he came home and told her that he has become an archdemon. This surprises both of them, and they explain to Nephi that this entire town was more or less run by the 13th archdemon, who was a pretty decent person. But after his death, things started getting bad and girls started getting kidnapped by sorcerers to use as a sacrifice. Chastel claims that the church believes that the archdemons are their sworn enemies, but there are only 12 sacred sword, whereas the archdemons are 13 in number, which means the knights are at a disadvantage. To get an even playing field, the church tries to attack the newest member of the archdemons because they haven't gained a lot of powers yet, which means that they are easier to kill. Neffy wonders whether that is the reason why Zaken sent her away. But Chastel breaks her thought and asks whether she thinks Zaken is capable of kidnapping girls and using them for sacrifice. Neffy quickly defends Zaken, claiming that he has no interest in using anyone for sacrifice and spends most of his time reading books on magic. Chastel ends up believing her as she remembers that Zaken was holding back a lot when he was fighting her just because she was a girl. She tells Neffy that when she first saw him, it looked like he was sad and needed help and compassion from a different person. Neffy completely understands what Chastel was talking about as she remembers how happy he was when she was with him, and thinks to herself that he might need her help to feel happy again, and gets up from her table, claiming that she is going back to Zaken. Both Manuela and Chastel get up and ask whether she will be okay going out alone. Neffy claims that she needs to go regardless, because even though Zaken is super strong, and no one can defeat him very easily, he still can get hurt, and no one in this world can stay happy if they are left all alone. She turns towards them with newfound inspiration and claims that she wants to be there to support her master in his time of need. Chastel smiles and tells her in that case she will go with her and do her duty as well. Neffy gets worried and asks whether she will fight him again, but Chastel immediately tells her that she is just going to escort her to the castle. Moreover, she claims that there is a sorcerer who is using the name of Zaken to commit crimes, framing him in the process, and she wants to figure out who this evil sorcerer is. Suddenly, the door of the tavern opens and the three knights that accompanied Chastel before appear inside. They immediately get scared to see Neffy there. Suddenly, the entire surrounding starts getting devoured by a darkness that no one can get away from. The darkness covers Neffy while Chastel ends up pushing Manuela away, saving her as she flies outside. A strong voice booms from the darkness that claims to be Zaken, and tells the knights that he is going to take both the girls back to his castle and sacrifice them to increase his powers. Meanwhile, Zaken looks at the moon remembering Neffy, while some knights from the church crawl on the ground totally helpless against the archdemon. He turns around and tells them that they are not very strong, and moreover, he didn't even have to do anything as they simply fell for the trap that Neffy put when she was training. This makes him feel sad, but he reminds himself that this is for the best, as now no one will try to harm her. He starts moving back to his castle, when one of the knights grabs onto his legs and tells him not to hurt Chastel, as she is the only one who thinks that he is not the real kidnapper. Before he could make sense of this, Manuela ends up jumping on top of the knight, who starts bickering with her. Annoyed by this, Zaken gets ready to expel all of them outside the forest, but Manuela turns towards him and shouts that Neffy has been kidnapped. He is surprised by this, as he thought he distanced her at the right time, but apparently it was too late. Manuela tells him that he needs to save her, while he thinks that if he tries to save her, this would clearly show the connection between Zaken and the White Elf. Manuela gets pissed at Zaken for looking so confused when he should be rushing to save Neffy, and tells him that she wanted to come back. He can't believe that she would try to come back even after he treated her so badly and kicked her out. He looks down into the earth as he tells Manuela that every single sorcerer in this world is extremely selfish, and he is no exception. That is why he will find Neffy and get her back, because she belongs to him and no one else. He vows to make sure that she is safe, even if he is forced to sacrifice the entire world for it. He turns around and conjures a magic circle and asks Manuela whether she wants to come with him. Manuela immediately agrees, but to his surprise, all the knights jump on him as well, begging him to take them as well. He tells them to get away from him so that he can at least cast the magic first, and begins the preparations. Meanwhile, Neffy wakes up from her slumber, only to find herself shackled to the wall alongside Chastel. The paladin asks whether she is okay, and Neffy claims that she is fine, but the shackles have blocked the flow of her mana. Suddenly, a voice sounds from afar, and a shadowy figure emerges who turns out to be none other than the scheming snake Barb. Neffy tells him that she thought of him as Zaken's friend, but Barb mocks her, claiming that sorcerers have no friends. He claims that Zaken killed a famous sorcerer when he was 8, and that sorcerer was none other than Barb's teacher. After that, Zaken ended up inheriting the sorcerer's castle and all the money before spending it all to buy Neffy. He tells her that all the riches and the castle belongs to him and not Zaken, and he is going to fulfill his dream by becoming the 13th archdemon by sacrificing Neffy and gaining all the power he needs. Neffy opens her mouth and tells him that all his planning will be in vain, because Zaken has already become the 13th archdemon. This really shocks Barb, who gets pissed at the fact that even this thing that he so desired got stolen by Zaken. He angrily grabs Neffy and drags her towards a magic circle, claiming that he will gain so much power after sacrificing both of them that he will become even stronger than Zaken and crush him. He starts dragging her once again, but Neffy fights back and claims that she belongs to Zaken and is not to be touched by someone as lowly as Barb. This pisses him off, and he was about to attack her with his magic. But suddenly a hole is blown through the cave as Zaken emerges from the dust. If you liked this video, make sure to subscribe for part 6. Barb asks Zaken how long has he known that he was behind the kidnappings, and he replies that it started when he saw the face stealer. That guy was super weak and couldn't have broken through the barrier surrounding the castle on his own, so there must have been someone backing him up. Zaken knew only one guy with the habit of breaking his barriers and entering his territory, and that was Barb. Zaken knows that Barb specializes in creating pocket dimensions and transporting and summoning things using them. He remarks that just after the face stealer and the Holy Knights were dealt with, Barb showed up at his door as if to check the result. It would be stupid of him to not suspect him after all that. Barb sneers and asks why did he still welcome him and serve him tea after knowing that, and Zaken replies that he just wanted to figure out his plan. Zaken then turns his attention to Neffy, who blushes on seeing him. He declares that Barb won't be forgiven for hurting his girl and sends a magic attack towards him. Barb tries to block it, but then suddenly, Zaken leaps at him and breaks his arms with a clean strike. He disables his legs, and Barb falls on his knees, screaming in pain. Zaken then heads to Neffy and frees her from the shackles. He nervously asks if that hurt her, and she tears up as she runs to him. She says that she was hurt, but he looked much more hurt than her. She says that he is her master, and if he says that she is no longer needed, she should accept it. However, she doesn't want to leave him alone, and in pain after knowing that he is hurt, she buries her face in his chest and asks him to not be alone again. Zaken hesitates to hug her because he feels guilty for abandoning her, but he overcomes that feeling and embraces her. In that time, Barb has recovered, and he launches a sneak attack at Zaken from behind. Neffy is worried, but Zaken assures her that nothing is going to happen. The magic circle Barb just cast shatters and disappears. He tries using another magic circle, but it also turns to dust. The same thing happens no matter how many magic circles Barb uses, and he wonders why is his magic not being activated. Neffy is also confused and asks Zaken what is happening, and he reminds her about the ultimate sorcery he once told her about. He shows Neffy the trick he uses, which is creating identical magic circles as Barb and overlapping them so that they naturally cancel out. Barb freaks out and wonders if this is the legacy of the first sorcerer he killed. But Zaken tells him that if the old sorcerer could use it, he would have never died. He recites the story of how he was 8 years old when the man kidnapped him, and he memorized the magic circle he used that time. Zaken claims that in a desperate attempt to save his life, he drew that circle on his palm with his blood, uncertain if it would actually work. However, when the evil sorcerer caught him while he was trying to escape and used the lightning spell on him, Zaken used it against him instinctively. Because of that, the evil sorcerer's magic circle was cancelled, and he got electrocuted by Zaken's attack. Barb declares that it was just a fluke, and he creates dozens of magic circles at once, but Zaken cancels them all within a couple of seconds. Barb has lost hope now, because some of the magic circles he just used were brand new, and Zaken had never seen them before. He asks him how he could overwrite everything so easily. Zaken tells Barb that he is a shabby third-rate sorcerer, if that was the best he could do, because even an amateur could deal with his magic with the right timing. He reveals how he was completely focused on researching magic after he became a sorcerer, and completely shut off communication with the outside world. Even his friends from the streets didn't come looking for him, but Barb did. He came to visit him every occasion he could find. They even fought with each other. But over time, Zaken decided to accept him as an inevitable nuisance, and they began getting along quite well. Barb says that he could have killed him any moment he wanted. Zaken decides to give him a taste of his true abilities and summons a complex, multi-layered magic circle that has absorbed all of Barb's magic circles he destroyed earlier. Barb asks him if he devoured his magic circles, and Zaken replies that it is a nice way to put it. He tells Barb that he truly was worthy of being a Demon Lord candidate. That reminds Zaken that when he was made the 13th Demon Lord, he was given a new title, the Sorcerer Slayer. Just as Zaken reveals his title to Barb, he uses the magic power stored in his complex magic circle and shoots it towards him. Barb takes a direct hit and collapses, writhing in pain. He realizes that even if he was an archdemon, he could not stop a punch from Zaken, much less defeat him. Zaken walks towards him, and Barb begs him for mercy as he accepts his defeat. He swears to give him all his knowledge and never show his face before him again, and Zaken suddenly stops. Barb tries to remind Zaken of the good old times and how they used to be friends, but he does not plan on falling for his sweet words. He hits Barb with another devastating punch, rattling the entire cave. However, when the dust settles, it turns out that he just hit the ground next to him, so as to scare him out of his wits. Zaken laughs and tells Barb that he doesn't need to panic because he doesn't want to kill him. The reason behind this is simple. Barb has a good eye for alcohol, and Zaken wants to continue having a taste of the fine wines he brings along. He is confident that Barb poses him no threat, but it rubs him the wrong way. He tells Zaken that if he lets him live, he will make sure to kill him, no matter how long it takes. Zaken tells him that he is free to try, but after he loses, he has to treat him to drinks. Barb is utterly baffled now, and he asks why does he not want to kill him? Because there is no profit in letting him live. Zaken simply tells him that he is an archdemon now, and he will do whatever he wants. He tells Barb that if he wants to be killed so badly, he should get stronger and become a real threat to him. Nephi is pleased to see this, and in the meantime, the Manuala has saved Chastel. As soon as they step into the giant magic circle on the ground, it suddenly activates, and Zaken asks Barb if he seriously wants to proceed after getting his ass whooped just now. Barb replies that he hasn't done anything, and Zaken spots the flaw in his magic circle opened up at the place he punched earlier. Zaken yells at Nephi and other girls to run away as the magic circle begins functioning, and a large amount of mana is ejected into the air. He asks Barb what the hell was he trying to do here, and he replies that he was going to summon a real demon. Zaken is taken aback to hear that, and the mana starts taking the form of the real demon, terrifying everyone. Demons have been part of the myths of this world, and it is said that they once used to live on Earth before going to another place. No one seems to have definite proof about their existence, but it is speculated that the symbols used in magic circles by the sorcerers and those used by the church are based on knowledge of demons and gods. Zaken realizes that Barb did something outrageous by summoning a demon here, but then notices that it is an imperfect summoning. He thinks that it was because he tampered with the magic circle and no one was sacrificed for this magic, but despite being just a shadow of its true self, he can tell how strong the demon is. Zaken loses hope as the demon's menacing aura presses him down. He realizes that the demon is much stronger than all the archdemons he faced earlier, and no matter how strong he gets, he cannot defeat it. The demon transforms its tentacles into a hand and approaches Zaken, who wonders if this is how he dies. However, instead of attacking him, the demon simply kneels before him and addresses him as his king. Zaken realizes that the demon is not reacting to him, but to the symbol of the archdemon on his hand. He wonders what kind of outrageous power has fallen into his hands, but decides to make good use of it. He commands the demon to return where it came from, because this world is not meant for him. The demon stares at him silently and then begins moving back into the magic circle, rattling the ground as he leaves. Once he is finally gone, Zaken falls to his knees and the summoning magic circle vanishes. But now, the cave has started to collapse, and Zaken immediately picks up Nephi and the other two girls. He asks Barb to grab on too, and he latches to his robe as Zaken runs out of the cave. The wreckage is about to block their exit, when suddenly, the Holy Knights with Chastel arrive there. Thanks to them, everyone is able to evacuate safely. After saving Chastel, one of the knights starts crying, while the other tries to tell Zaken that they are here just to save their leader and rescue the civilians. They insist that they have no plans of cooperating with an evil sorcerer like him, and Zaken simply tells them to go home if they are done talking. The knights curse him as they leave, and then Manuela also thanks him for saving her, before asking him to talk things out with his girl. After she has also left, Zaken turns to Barb and asks if he plans to fight him. Barb doesn't have any strength or courage to face him after seeing him subdue the demon earlier, so he just walks ahead and disappears in a black haze. With that, Zaken and Nephi are finally left alone, and they get embarrassed as soon as they realize this. She speaks first and tells Zaken that she would like to stay by his side. He realizes that she has grown mentally and emotionally stronger, but there are some things he wants to change now. Zaken kneels before Nephi to confess his feelings to her and to promise that he won't hurt her ever again. He tells her that she doesn't need to call him master anymore, because she is not his slave or apprentice now. He states that he wants something more for them, and then blushes, unable to utter a single word out of his mouth. Zaken cannot bring himself to tell Nephi that he loves her, so he gets up and grabs her tightly, telling her that she belongs to him. He tells her that she will always be his, even after death. Both of them blush for a moment, but then Zaken falls to his knees, wondering why couldn't he just tell her that he loves her. However, what he just said was enough to make Nephi cry tears of joy. She pulls out the broken collar from her pocket and requests Zaken to put it back on her. She wants to wear it as a reminder of how she came into Zaken's life, and he accepts her feelings. He gently puts it around her neck, thinking that it is a bit too big for an engagement ring. They watch the sunrise together after that, and Nephi asks him what their relationship is now if she is not his slave or apprentice. He falls silent on hearing that and blushes, hoping someone will approach him with an answer. Soon after that, the news about the new archdemon spreads throughout the region. People talk about how Zaken looks scary, but is actually a decent person. Two fellow sorcerers, who were prominent archdemon candidates, also hear this, but they don't seem to mind that a sorcerer much younger than them has reached a position they were eyeing. However, there are some people not too happy with Zaken becoming the new archdemon. Among them is the bishop who commands Chastel. She tells him that she wants to pull out of the mission to hunt down Zaken, and even testifies that he was being framed regarding the kidnappings. The cardinal takes her words very seriously, and immediately strips her of her title as an angelic knight. Chastel realizes that the church has hit a new low because they care more about censuring her than dealing with real problems. Her underlings try to convince the cardinal that he is making a mistake, but she asks them to shut up. After seeing Zaken stand firm in what he believes in, she wants to become like him too, and faces the cardinal with determination. If you liked this video, make sure to subscribe for part 6, and make sure to check out this brand new anime about a loser who gets reincarnated as a prince with